Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Rescue Dog Pod. My name is Helen Summerfield-Brown, and I'm a rescuer, advocate, and full-time animal lover. This podcast is for the animal people, the ones who volunteer at rescues, who have adopted the underdogs, cried at animal stories, and can't walk past a stray dog without stopping. If you've ever wondered what really goes on behind the scenes in dog rescue, the messy, the beautiful, the heartbreaking, and the hopeful, then you are in the right place. Each week, I'll be sharing stories from across the globe and speaking with rescuers, fosters, adopters, vets, and advocates who are doing the work, saving lives, and fighting for change. My hope is that this podcast inspires you, educates you, and reminds you that one person really can make a difference. So thank you for being here, for listening, and for being part of this amazing community of animal advocates. Now, on to today's episode. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome someone whose work I deeply admire, Shira Scott Astrof. Shira is a USA-based actress, writer, speaker, animal rescuer, and the founder and CEO of the Animal Rescue Mission, or ARM, a 501c3 nonprofit organization in California dedicated to rescuing homeless and abused animals. But her work doesn't stop there. She's also passionate about educating the next generation on compassion, responsibility, and respect for all sentinel beings. You may recognize Shira from her roles in The Office, Angie Tribeca, Criminal Minds, to name a few. But behind the scenes, she's just as powerful, using her voice and platform to fight for animals in some of the most heartbreaking and urgent situations. So, Shira, I am so honored to have you here today. Welcome to the Rescue Dog Pod.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be on, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
I know, right? That's because you're super special. So I wanted to make it super special, and
I was listening. I was like, all right, all right.
like, who is this? Who is this amazing person? I have to meet her. Well, it's well, it's you. So, yeah, thank you for taking the time today. Because I when I messaged you and I said, hey, do you want to be on this rescue dog pod? And you were like, hey, yeah, absolutely. And I said, what do you want to talk about? And you were like, I want to talk about everything. So I was like, okay, well, how long you got? So everybody get comfortable, get a coffee, get a tea, get a vodka, martini, I don't know, whatever you got going, and sit back because we've got lots to talk about.
Oh, I love that.
So, yeah, super happy that you are joining us today. And as I said, I gave a little bit of overview. But is there anything else that I missed? Maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself and what brought you into the world of animal rescue.
It started when I was young. I guess my sister is the one that mainly got myself and my whole family involved. She started volunteering at Farm Sanctuary in, I think it was Watkins Glen, New York. And oh, actually, you know what? I think it mainly started when I found a little kitten in our backyard. I was about 9 years old, and there was this little kitten that was like, you know, very sick. He had his eye coming out,
Mm.
and I took him inside and nursed him back to health. And then that just started this, we became like the house of cats. We saved every stray cat in the world. We TNR'd. This was like before I, well, I was gonna say before like everyone knew about it, but that's definitely not true. Definitely
Right.
before everyone in Long Massapequa Park knew about it. And then around the same time, my sister started volunteering at Farm Sanctuary, and she one day came home. I'll like never forget this moment, and she was obviously like really overwhelmed with what she had seen. It was day one for her, and she showed us, I'd say, like 10 seconds of a slaughterhouse.
Oh,
And
yeah.
myself,
Oh,
my mom, my dad immediately became vegetarian. I was either 9 or 11, I always forget. And, we just immediately kind of just became these huge animal people. And, my parents are amazing. They've now trapped, spayed, neutered every single stray in our neighborhood that there's only two feral cats left. And they're like sad because, they used to have a whole colony, but I'm like, this was the goal. Like, you saved so
yeah, for
many
sure.
lives. So yeah, I come from a family of animal people. And then when I moved out here, when I was 17, I went to USC, which was just my, excuse to come out here. Um, get to LA, be an actress, and I immediately started, saving every stray I saw by USC, and finally joined a rescue group called Care Rescue. Oh no, wait. I joined a couple others just kind of as a volunteer. And then I joined a rescue group called Care Rescue LA. And then while there, there was just so much more I wanted to do. And then also, I started rescuing dogs from South Korea and China, and
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely, I don't want to sound judgy, but there was definitely like a disconnect I think I had with some of my rescue partners at the time. Like we would be picking up a dog from a meat trade and they would stop at McDonald's, and I'm like, I just want to do things my way.
Yeah.
um, so I started Animal Rescue Mission in 2018, I believe.
Wow. That's
And
great.
yeah, and then I mean, it was nonstop from the start, but COVID was like, while everyone else was like, home and watching TV, I was nonstop. There were so many people wanting to adopt, so that was great. But that's when I was back and forth from Mexico. I guess because there were so many people wanting to adopt, I was able to save so many more. And I also started a COVID-19 program for, God, I haven't said that word in so long.
And I thank goodness it's far behind us. Well, sort of,
Yeah. Oh my
somewhat.
God. For people that were sick that needed help with their pets, for people that, just any help that anyone needed because it was so hard for people to get around, get food. I would drop off just, food and supplies. Um, but I I made kind of my own hazmat suit with, those like silver sweatsuits.
Did you like jazz up a hazmat suit? Like, do you bling it out like all California style? Is that what you did?
Oh my God, I have to send you photos of video. And they like did an article on me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally wearing one of those like silver like sweatsuit thing. I look like an astronaut, and then I put on like this makeshift mask, like because I'm walking into people's homes that have COVID, and this was when it was terrifying. Like the first year where people like if you got it, you like you know were in the
I know. Do
hospital.
you remember? Like, I remember when we first got it. It was like we going to the grocery store and you'd come back with a box of like Special K or something, and you'd be having to take the box apart and throw away the box because they would say it was in the cardboard and things like that. So yeah, it was scary times. So I'm glad that's far behind us. So
You had to like
so
wash everything, and to get paper towels or toilet paper, you had to like order it from China. Like,
I know it was crazy times. So, but I mean, if you're in your silver suit, probably people are thinking, "Oh, it's California. That's just another day in California." So you probably fit right in. But I go back to that point where you talked about how there was such a disconnect because that is true. It is as rescuers when we are rescuing animals all day and then people go and eat a Big Mac or something like that, it's like, oh my goodness. So there is that disconnect. So I can absolutely see what drove you to start that rescue because that's, one of my things is like, we're animal lovers and people say we're animal lovers, but then they go and eat an animal. It makes no sense to me. So,
yeah,
so I'm glad you said
it's
that. And so you've been doing the rescue mission since 2018. And do you rescue predominantly in like all over the world, or are you predominantly in California? I mean, we're going to talk about California uh, in a minute, but like, are you all over the place?
I was for a while all over the place. I have a rescue partner in Mexico, and we would rescue tons of animals there because it's just so horrible there. For a while, I rescued from China, from South Korea. South Korea dogs are well, China I stopped being able to because um they changed something with the board with something where I couldn't fly dogs here anymore. You know what I'm talking about? It was like a few years ago they
Yeah.
changed.
Well, they change all the time. The CDC, they make changes all the time to the import rules, and they just changed them again in August of last year. But I know it's difficult to get
Yeah.
dogs out of China. That it's difficult, and I know South Korea was okay, but South Korea they have some amazing dogs, some amazing groups out there helping those dogs as well. So yeah, I'm glad that
Yeah.
you're doing that.
Well, I was for a while, the South Korea dogs, I'd say like say we brought in like five, like one would like come here and be like, I'm here, like love me. And then the other four, it would take months before they would let us pet them.
Yeah.
They were very traumatized. But in the past 2 years, it's just LA because it's so bad here
Yeah, we're going to
that
talk about that because, like, let's talk about the state of animal rescue in California right now. Because, like, what are you seeing on the ground in terms of overpopulation?
it's the worst it's ever been. And the really infuriating part is that there's nothing being done by our city to help that. There's no enforcement of spay neuter, there's no enforcement of really anything. We have backyard breeders all over the place. We shouldn't even call it backyard breeders because they're doing it in the open, on the street, um, posting ads, just all over the place. And there's no enforcement of any animal laws that are already in existence. So, you know, for me and for most rescuers, I think spay neuter is the number one thing that's needed right now. I actually am a part of a new organization called Cara Vida, and it's focused 100% on high quality. Wait, what is it? It's mass. I gotta get this down. High quality mass volume spay neuter. Did I get that right?
That sounds good. That's high quality. Yep, that's because the quality part is key. It has to be quality. It can't just be, like a bad job done. But absolutely, that high quality. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I'm probably butchering it, but basically, yeah, where it's our group basically funds already existing spay neuter pop-ups, clinics, mobiles, and basically triples what they're doing. Plus, we're working with a clinic here in Burbank, and it's amazing these vets that they're trained to spay and neuter 50 animals a day, and it's just to me that's the most important thing right now because we can't rescue our way out of this anymore. It's everyone that wants a dog has a dog. It took me 2 years to find my last three large dogs homes. Like that's insane.
Yeah, it is.
Even,
I mean,
even like
it is. I
small.
mean, the shelters are beyond full, right? I mean, I know that, people are surrendering pets at alarming rates. Dogs are being euthanized. I mean, is this true from what you're seeing that dogs are being euthanized for space in these shelters? I mean, maybe
Yeah,
can you tell
they
us about what's happening there?
you know it's so bad that they don't even hide it anymore. They used to say, they used to make up behavior notes to justify killing them. Now I was just looking at the euthanasia list yesterday for our city shelters, and they're just honest now. They're like killing for space, euthanasia for space, for space, for space. These amazing dogs are just having to be killed because they can't warehouse them. And people, it's insane to me that people still don't understand and get how bad it is. I went to the shelter 2 days ago, one of the city ones, and there were Frenchies, there were little poodles. That's how bad it is that even those dogs
Yeah.
are at the shelters. And it's like now you really have no justifiable reason to go to a breeder when you could get any dog, even if you want that specific breed, even if you want a Frenchie.
Girl, don't get me started on the breeders. I mean, people always say to me, I want a dog that's bred because it's going to have a better temperament or so forth. But I'm like, that ain't true. And like you said, there are so many specific dog breed rescues. Like there is rescues that focus on pug dogs. There's rescues that focus on Frenchies. And there's dogs in these shelters. I know because I get calls all the day and I look at the dogs that they're asking me to help. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like a cute little Shih Tzu or a little Maltese or something like a name. I'm going to use air quotation, brand dogs that normally people are paying top dollar for breeders for them, and they're sitting in current shelters. I looked at the statistics too the other day. Like so far this year, like so it was like 7,500 dogs have been euthanized in just like in the LA County shelters already, and that's just now. I mean, that's not even the whole of California, which I can imagine is that number is I can't even imagine. But I mean, so how do we address this crisis? I mean, what besides the spay and neuter, what else do you think that we need to do to be able to address this?
We need enforcement of the spay neuter laws, but we need all of these people that are backyard breeding, that are, even breeding their animals. Like, we need to not only educate people better, but enforce the laws and say, if you breed your animal, we'll fine you. If you it's just horrible. They're ignoring everything that's happening in homeless encampments. They're openly breeding animals and putting them in cages. We need law enforcement They keep saying in LA that they're going to enforce it, but they don't. And they even admit actually that the unhoused people have different rules than others because I think they're afraid to, enforce laws there, but that makes no sense. Nothing
Right.
justifies treating animals that way. So, yeah, I think enforcement, I think the shelters need to spay and neuter every dog that isn't. They many times will let a dog leave the shelter with a voucher, but we can't rely on anyone to actually. I made a big point with the Frenchie 2 days ago. That's not spayed. I was like, don't you dare let anyone take this Frenchie unspayed. That,
Yeah, because they'll be used for breeding later on. Might be yeah, it could be used for breeding because that is true. Like, but that's I think most rescues. I mean, most reputable rescues will not allow a dog to be out of their program unless they're spayed or neutered, unless they're a puppy, obviously. But
yeah.
yeah, that's definitely needs to be enforced. I mean, so at like the state level and the city level, more things need to be done. I mean, are you sort of more involved in trying to get changes there? Sort of, are you working on that?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like kind of in every area now. I'm working with this group for different legislation. Especially, the hard part or the what shouldn't be hard part is that we already have these spay neuter laws. Like we don't have to go
Mm.
to Sacramento and fight for this. Like we already passed it and it just needs to be enforced. We just need more enforcement. We need animal control to do their job. Sadly, that is one of the biggest problems. Animal control officers don't do their jobs. They don't care. They're city employees that many times just get assigned to that position. We've caught many of them saying they went to an abuse situation that they were called to do and they don't get out of their car. Like there's just so many different problems. But I
Mm.
think overall, the part that we can do, definitely advocate for, enforcement of the laws, but we can, all offer spay neuter to. I always say, if you have a pet that isn't spay neutered, I'll do it. You don't have to worry about the price. You don't have to wait. I will get you an appointment and I will get it taken care of because even one dog can save, I forget the math, but I think like thousands, if
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. It is like if one dog stops one dog to stop one dog. It's absolutely, and that is, I think, for most rescuers, like especially for me doing international rescue as well, is that we spay and neuter is like one of the major focuses on our programs because we need to stop the breeding of these animals because they're just multiplying and there's just no resources and infrastructure, and even in a country like the United States where we have resources, we have a lot of animal people out there helping. And look at us, we still can't get on top of it, and our shelters are overflowing, and that's a scary thing. And euthanizing for space these beautiful animals, and it's incredibly heartbreaking to see that. I mean, it's every single day, and I can't even imagine from what you see going into these shelters, seeing these faces staring back at you. It must be incredibly hard, but
uh,
it's it must be awful. So good on you for getting involved at your local and state level. And I think I saw the other day you were doing something like you said with the unhoused population. You were helping on. Were you out there the other day? Did I see that? Was that on your page?
I'm like probably I'm all over. I'm really all over at this point. There's so many different issues, but they're all connected. Um,
Right.
like totally just lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Oh,
I'll get you
you
back on
know,
the choo choo train.
well, one thing that I definitely want to point out because I'm realizing this is kind of an epidemic of, I think it's two parts. So one thing is, this whole no kill thing, that's the worst thing to happen to animals because it's just obviously no one wants to kill an animal, but you can't just, I've heard from so many people like, I'll only go to a no kill shelter or let's just make all the shelters no kill. And it's like, obviously everyone wants that. What are you going to do? Like, why do you think they do kill? It's because having a dog sit in a cage for 10 years also
Mm.
isn't the answer. That's cruel. So it's like, unless you actually make a plan, make solutions, make, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
I know, but you need to come up with solutions because that you can't just say broadly, well, we just want to go to no kill, because that is not a reality. Like there needs to be
Yeah,
a plan. There needs to be a call of action. There needs to be an actual plan on how we're going to stop more dogs coming in. Because the dogs that are in there are getting, like you said, are getting euthanized for space. So how do we stop it at the other end? It shouldn't have to be like that, and that comes down to educating people, because there are a lot of people who just don't want to get their dog spayed or neutered. I don't know why, but they just don't want to do it. And I think changing the perception of dog ownership from just a pet to a lifelong responsibility, and educating them on the value of spay neutering an animal is really important. And how we do that, I don't know. I think it's just about people like you, me, getting out there and talking about it. And because it is a huge problem. I see every day crisis in LA County shelters, and it's just an awful thing to see.
yeah, no, it's the worst. I was hiking on Runyon Canyon yesterday, and I was talking to these two people, and I don't remember how it came up in conversation, but it turned out that both of their dogs weren't fixed, and I was like, why? Why aren't? And they both said, "Oh, well, we're thinking maybe like them each having like one litter." And I was like, "Oh my God, I had no idea. I thought, at least in my neighborhood or nicer neighborhoods that
Mm.
people knew, oh my God, of course you spay and neuter, but they don't." And that was really eye-opening for me yesterday. So I went through. First, I did the whole like overpopulation thing. That did not resonate. So I went to pyometra and testicular cancer. That resonated.
Okay.
But I do think that we still need to educate everyone, because
Mm-hmm.
if people didn't know, that means most people don't know. So that's, my role in Caravita, which is the new organization I'm working with, is kind of advocacy and education. And I'm trying to think of different ways to, because spay neuter, it's not like this fun, sexy thing. You're not seeing like an animal being saved. So I'm thinking of different ways to, make it interesting, make it like, of course, for me, like inappropriate humor, like got balls, not anymore. Just like have
Right.
attention, and then
Yeah.
maybe one that like I want to get like a Jason Momoa type to be to say to some guy that doesn't want to neuter his dog because he thinks that oh, I don't want to do
It's
that.
manly.
Yeah, and Jason Momoa would be like, okay, you're pathetic, dude. Like, neuter your dog. Don't make this about yourself.
Well, that is true. I was going to say it's like a lot of like men, they feel like they don't want to neuter their male dogs because like, oh my god, they don't want their testicles to go away. Can we say testicles? We'll probably get kicked off the air. But it is, and that perception too, that oh, we should every dog should be able to have a go through motherhood or something. I'm like, no, no.
No, oh
This
my gosh, that was also what I said. I said, look at your baby. Do you think she wants to get pregnant? Do you think she wants to carry babies and, have them taken away? And I mean, what I really wanted to say was, your dog needs to lose about 15 pounds, so maybe work on that first. But I try not to fat shame dogs. Turns
yeah,
out
don't do
people.
that. Yeah, because I'm like, if I was a dog, I'd be fat shamed. So
No,
yeah.
no, but like, if you're an overweight dog, like it's not healthy, and I see it so much. But I have a friend that has two like obese dogs, and I was like, I said it nicely, and he'll never forget it. He's like, "Remember when you fat shamed my dogs?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I was trying to help you."
Is that dog in like therapy now?
Probably, yeah. I mean, he needs therapy for it. He has not gotten over it.
Funny. So, so I'm glad we're talking about the California thing, but I also want to talk about because, like, you and I connected, sort of interestingly, well, not interesting. It was a terrible case after that recent hoarding case in Arizona, the one
Yeah.
involving the unmentionable April and the heartbreaking condition that those animals were found in. And I know you've been doing research, a lot of research into like fraudulent rescues and individuals struggling with mental illnesses who believe like hoarding is like rescuing. So maybe you
Yeah.
can talk about what you saw in that case in particular and how that affected you. So maybe just talk about that experience briefly, if you would, if unless you sort of again traumatized and don't want to talk about it.
No, no, because I'm actually obsessively looking into all of this, and I can't, it's one of those things where I'm like, I can't stop because I had no idea what, again, what an epidemic this is. But with April, the hoarder pretending to be a rescue, she actually had a 501, and these people, they are mentally ill, but they're also exceptionally intelligent in that their con is so good that I believed her, and like I think it was over 50 rescues believed her
Yeah, I
just as
did too. Yeah.
um they're so good at convincing you. I mean, I would have hour-long conversations with her, and her con was different with everyone. That's why I'm like, I don't know how she kept track. With me, she adopted two dogs from me. With others, she was a rescue for special needs dogs. And, she had all these different cons. She took videos of she must have taken a million videos of my dogs when she first got them, because she would send videos all the time. So I had no reason to question anything. And, when I saw a video that this kid hopped the fence, he'll like forever be my hero, and he took a video,
Mm.
and one of my dogs was in it and just looked so sick, and my heart just like fell out of me. I was in New York at the time visiting family, and it was like midnight. I found the soonest flight out. It was out at Newark. I hopped in an Uber. It was like a 2.5 hour Uber, flew out to Arizona. As soon as I landed, let's say it was like 9 a.m., went straight to her door, knocked on the door, and like you could just hear, not only could you hear all the dogs, but the smell.
Mm.
And it still baffles me that it took over a year, or over 2 years, I was told, for this to happen, for her to be busted. And the smell, like, I still, I'm a, I, when they finally came to get all the dogs out, everyone was in hazmat suits.
Yeah.
I absolutely wasn't. And I still have, like, issues from the amount of chemicals and toxins I inhaled. So now, or maybe it's PTSD, but now I'm so sensitive to smells that if when I go to the shelters, I have to cover my face because I get physically ill at the slightest smell like that. Maybe it is PTSD.
It probably is. It is probably like a sensory PTSD because, and you think about like they were like another human living in that. Besides April, with her mother was in there, and all those dogs living
Oh,
in the cleaning cleaning products and feces and things like that. And
oh, just
it's. I mean, I remember watching you going up to the door, and there's a lot of group of other people involved in that as well who did amazing work to get her finally exposed, but it goes to talk about like how do you know the difference between a legitimate rescue and a hoarding situation masquerading as one? Like, what are the red flags that can maybe tell people what are the red flags, or is there? I mean, like you said, she was very, very clever because she convinced me to send one of my dogs to her, and thankfully it was intercepted by Becca from Yaku Animal Rescue, who called me and said, "Do not send your dog there." Thank God, because
how
that
did
dog would
she
have
find
been.
out again
How did
that
how
you
did how did Becca find out? Or
No, I mean, Becca's the reason this
yeah,
all happened. She really researched everything. But how did she find out that you were about to send a dog?
because I had posted Sarah that she was going to be going to April, and I think Becca was just kind of going on Facebook and putting in her name and the rescue's name, and then she was just contacting people that had mentioned April's rescue in their posts. And so she
Mm,
called me. I didn't know who she was, and she called me. She said, "Hey, just letting you know this is the situation." And I was like, "Thank you," because a lot of rescues were like, "No, no, I don't believe you," but I believed. I believed it, and I was like, my dogs are like my family, and
yeah.
there was no way I was gonna send my dog to her after hearing that, and then just getting involved in that. And one of the dogs that died, I think it was Victory. It looked like spitting image to Sarah,
Yeah.
and it was at the time. I didn't let April know that I knew what was going on, and even when the police were at her doorstep when they were there, she was messaging me saying they're all lying, they're making this up, and I was relaying that information to Becca, saying this is what she's saying. And it was just interesting the sense of denial that she was having, even while there was police raiding her house and getting dogs out. She was still saying that she was like legitimate, and it's all
Yeah.
lies.
Well, what also was, so I had found out, and then she had been asking about a dog here that was paralyzed, and she was like, why don't I take that one? So I played her con as well. I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to get her to meet me. This is before I realized just how bad it was, I guess, but I was like, yeah, why don't I bring him and you can meet me with Rudy and Chester, and I was trying all these things.
Mm.
And then when I was there, she pulled up in her car, um and I recorded it. I had like a 45-minute conversation with her, and I was really trying to be like, I know that this is all untrue, you know why don't you just, give hand back the dogs to I really tried. And she just she just did not get it. She was like, no, I these dogs need me. Like, she really didn't get it. She really thought that she was saving. I still don't understand it, because she really believed that, but
Mm. Mm.
how? But I think
Right.
that's what we'll never really understand. And then so now more quote rescues have been found out, like Woofy Acres. Now I know what to look for. And I
So what are the
remember,
red flags? What are the red flags that you now you know what to look for? What are they?
so when a rescue is pulling dogs nonstop from the shelter and you never see updates of them, that's a red flag. That's a hoarder.
Right.
Especially dogs that have pledges, they're collecting the money. Um, and I think it's half about the money. I'd say it's less about the money for them, but that does help them to keep going, and more about just the hoarding in their minds. At least in a lot that I've researched, they think that they're saving these dogs lives by taking them out and sticking them in boarding, and I don't mean like nice boarding, I mean like in a
Mm.
facility or in crates or in their home covered in tarps, and they still think they're saving those dogs, and they
Right.
don't
Yeah.
understand that is
Not.
not life any dog wants. And that's that mental illness part of it. And I'm seeing a lot now. I'm kind of at the point where if a rescue says they have a sanctuary or a haven, I would say 90% of the time that in my recent findings is going to be a bad situation. There's
Right.
a couple of groups right now that I really, I keep saying, I was like, oh, I would love to see a video of your sanctuary, and you know they won't send a video. Or I think, the easiest way to tell is if the person will allow you to come and see their sanctuary.
Yeah.
And if they won't, yeah, red flag. And I went to, and it works both ways, because these these mentally ill, and some of them, I think they are just in it for the money, and they know that they're conning, because they start these hate campaigns against really good rescuers to deflect, and they kind of scare people from even going after them, or you know thinking anything about them, because they're deflecting, and they're like making people think that these amazing rescues are fraudulent. And so they're harming animals in every way. They're hoarding the animals, they're putting them in bad situations, they're conning people by collecting money, but they're also putting so much stress on really good rescues.
Mm.
Michaela from Save a Fox Foundation,
Yes, I know. She passed. Yeah, she killed herself. Or can I
yeah,
say that
because of
she unalived herself? Sorry.
yeah, and it was because of the online bullying from other rescue people. And I guarantee it's these quote rescuers that aren't real rescuers, that are hurting animals. And it's really sad. So, you know, I don't know if I told you this, but do you know Lee Asher of the Asher
Yeah.
House?
Mhm. Mhm. I don't know him personally. I see his work, but I don't know him. I've never spoken to him. But.
So he's got massive like hate campaigns against him, and
Mhm.
it's just like nonstop. And I started to question them, because they had this thing called like Justice for Chevy, and it was saying how, he took a dog from um a shelter that had bite history, behavior issues,
Mhm.
all this stuff, and he was like, well, let me just see, let me have him go to my trainer, and let's see if there's a chance I can, rehab him. And he couldn't. The trainer was like, this is a very dangerous dog. And the reality is, if you're a legit rescuer, you have definitely had to euthanize a dog for behavior at least once.
Yep,
I
I
mean,
concur.
you have no business rescuing if you haven't, because that's just absurd. And also, you know, they put us in a position where it's like, if you know, have to euthanize a dog because they're dangerous, vicious. By the way, that dog is not happy if they have those issues. Then, you know, they'll be like, you killed a dog. But if you don't and that dog hurts someone, then you're irresponsible.
Yeah,
So,
you killed a person or you killed a child. I know, because it is true. It is true. There are some dogs that are dangerous, and as a responsible rescue, you cannot adopt a dog out. Especially if they've got bite histories, you have to you have to reveal that. You have to say this dog has some bite issues, and if that dog is deemed dangerous, I don't want on my conscience a child getting bit. Knowing that this dog
yeah.
has issues. Yeah.
Also, we could get sued. I almost got sued for $1 million when a dog bit someone. Like, there's just so much that goes into it, and the judgment, like, unless you're taking a dangerous dog on and you're doing it all yourself, how dare you judge us for making the responsible decision that absolutely needs to happen? But what I can't stand is that all of us rescues have to hide when that happens because
Mm,
these online bullies think they could have saved the dog. So that's what happened with Lee Asher, and I was like, I don't think any of these things are true. So I went to his sanctuary in Oregon, and that's what people need to do. They need to see the truth for themselves.
yep.
And, I'm not going to lie, I question some things because I think until we have an awakening like I just had, your mind is trained to kind of believe, we believe the news, we believe social media, we believe things we see, and we've trained ourselves like not to question it. And so I went there, I started chatting with him and he said, "Come here." He's like, "Invite anyone you want." He's like, "Even invite the haters." And I went there, and not only is everything not true, he is the most amazing person. What he's created there is just nothing short of like miraculous. Like, he is saving so many dogs. He is making such a difference, and it kills me that he has to deal with all of these lies, and they're all started by these frauds, by these um mentally ill or not mentally ill bullies that get off on putting down great rescuers. And they're horrible, they're vicious because they're putting, the worst thing is when we're sacrificing our lives to save lives, and then we're being questioned about, are you really, or are you killing them? And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, the most
Right.
absurd rumors. um and then, I see a lot of other rescuers believe it, and I don't blame them because, like I said, and I was very honest with him, like, I quickly believed some of that, and I will never again believe anything until I have proof, whether it's
Yeah.
good or bad.
Absolutely, and
And
that's good. I mean, people need to do their research because it is true. I mean, people they like to pile on the negative, and it then becomes then it's out there regardless if it's true or not. Then it's out there, and it's difficult to come back and like I always say to people, my reputation as a rescuer is like all I have. My ethics is all I have. So you want to do everything right, and when other people are just spreading lies and rumors and things like that, thankfully, touch wood, I haven't had that, but I can only imagine how stressful it is, and go back into your point about trying to have this rescue god complex. I guess it is like I always get people like, why don't you rescue that dog? Why are you not saving that dog? It's like, well, first of all, you need to have a plan to rescue a
yeah,
dog. You can't just take a dog from a shelter and then you've got to find funds for it. You've got to find a place for it, a foster. Where are you putting that dog? And as a responsible rescue, I mean, I am sometimes terrible. This is that you take on too many animals and then you can't give them the care that they need, and
yeah.
and that's a big problem. But is it because there's just so many dogs that people rescuers feel like they have to, or is it? What do you think? Is that what it is?
I mean, I think all good rescuers, they save as many as they can responsibly.
Right.
But I think that, yeah, what people don't understand is that if you save a dog and you don't have a plan, then you're not saving that dog. I just had a recent situation where I saw this dog, and I really, your heart broke for this dog because he had clearly been abused, and it was just one of those heartbreaking situations where you're like, I need that dog to be saved and to be loved and to have a happy ending. And
Mm.
I saw a rescue. I'd never heard of them, but they rescued him, and like, you see all these happy photos and you believe that, his life is going to be great. And I actually called that rescue to offer to donate because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, that's amazing. And they told me that the dog is in boarding
Mm-hmm.
and they essentially don't have a plan. And I was like, well, why did you rescue him? Not only why did you rescue him, but there were other rescues with a plan
Right.
that wanted to get him. And then I even went so far as to, I found a great rescue that has a trainer that has all the things that this dog would need.
Mm.
Um, and I said, great news. I found another rescue that's willing to take over, and they have A, B, and C, and they have the funding for it. And it's that I don't know with this rescue yet. I have a feeling it's a really bad situation, but the fact that they said no and that dog is still in boarding
Mm.
and they say they don't have funds, I mean, those are all red flags. And I am starting to call people out, so which means I am going to become a target. But I'm kind of at the point now where these people need to be called out. And hopefully all of us rescuers can come together and say, enough of this. We're not going to like go after you, but you're not going to affect us. And you need to stop because I can't, I had no idea how many people really think they're saving lives by taking dogs from a shelter and then and then abandoning them in boarding. And to them, they save lives, or
Right.
putting them in tiny cages under tarps. And to them, they're still saving those lives. And
Because the
it's
animal's
meant
alive, that's not dead. That's the, I guess that's what they're probably saying. Is like, well, it's not dead, it's alive, but I don't want to be living in a cage under a tarp. I'd
No, it's like,
rather.
well, at least they're alive. And it's like, that's not the goal ever. Humane euthanasia is a gift in so many ways compared to the lives that a lot of these dogs are living. Yeah, I would rather be euthanized than sit in a cage.
Right. Yeah. And
People know
so,
that concept.
so,
I always,
so what other
oh,
red
sorry.
flags are this? So I was going to cut you off. Just going to say. So what? So okay. So you've gone through some. What other red flags? Okay, because you're a rescuer, right? So from
Yeah.
a maybe from a donor's perspective or a supporter, like what would you recommend them to look at? Because I always tell people, especially there's such like online scammers these days. Again, I just posted on my stories some group who are using my home address on their website, on their Facebook page and stuff to get donations. And you call them out, you report them, and nothing happens. And that's
Yeah.
from a financial side, and I get it all the time. But as a donor, as a supporter, what red flags should they be looking for?
Um, I think the same thing. Go onto their social media and their website. If there are no updates on because the scam rescues, they'll always post the sad photos, we need money, and then there's no updates.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest red flag. When you ask them questions and they get defensive, that's another red flag. They should be incredibly transparent. Um, when, I mean, I kind of feel like what attracts these bad rescues are you see a lot of these networkers that collect pledges and then
Mm.
ask for, can someone rescue this dog? And I'm realizing that those are the bad rescues that are collecting the pledges and taking the dogs, and then the dogs are in a bad situation. Like, I've never saved a dog because that dog had pledges. To me, that's irresponsible rescuing. If you don't, like, you should never rely on
Pledges.
money that you might not
Yeah.
see. Like, pledges help, they mainly help to kind of almost reimburse what you're going to spend on this dog so you can save another dog. Um, but when you see a rescue constantly pulling dogs with a ton of pledges and then not doing any updates, huge red flag.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you see a rescue say they have a facility or a sanctuary and they won't let anyone see it, huge red flag. Mm,
Check the addresses because I know there's sometimes when you people like they'll put an address on, then you'll Google it. It'll be like it's a post office out in the middle of somewhere or it's something. I'm like, and like I the other day there was somebody that was using my photos and my dogs for on their page, and somebody had asked them, well, where's your charity paperwork, and they included the charity paperwork under in the comments, and I looked at it and I've still got it and I saved it, and it was like it was spelling mistakes, and they
mm,
had said the Department of the Treasury being one word, so they didn't even spell it right. There is no such thing as the Department of the Treasury giving out
yeah,
501c3 notices. So I mean there's so many obvious things, and I just feel so bad for so many people that say donated. I'm like, oh my gosh, if you just did a little
yeah.
bit of research and could see that, I think because they have like 60,000 followers that they pay for, you know how they pay for followers and things like that. It gives them some sort of legitimacy, but
Oh.
and that's what helped. That's what people think. Oh,
But I
they've
feel
got
like
64,000.
5 followers isn't it kind of obvious because, well, you know what, I don't think it is to a lot of people because I've actually fallen for that before. Like, oh, they have 1 million followers, and then when you look at each post, they have like 3 likes, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And like you said, it's always like the worst of the worst pictures, and then there's no follow up. But and it's just like this dog needs money right now, and like when I'm posting and I need money for these dogs, I'm like, oh, I'm always like so cautious, and I do updates up the wazoo,
Yeah,
people, because that's really really important. And it's it is really important for everybody to be aware that there are some bad eggs out there, but there's also some really good eggs, like the work that you're doing, and there's so many of our somebody that we're connected with who are doing some amazing things, and we need to support them. And as
yeah,
rescuers, and you touched on it before about rescuers going at each other. I mean, we need to be, as a community, we need to come together, because the more we help each other, the more dogs that we can save together. And
absolutely.
we just need to try to, there's no egos. Like, there's a lot of people that just do this for the selfie, for the being out and, on the camera. I don't know what it is, but like that
It's
that
ego. It's
that
like a dog.
frustrates me.
Yeah. You know what I can't stand is the people that, will go to a shelter and they'll take a video of them getting a dog out, and they're like, I saved this dog. They were gonna kill him today. Can you take him? And it's like,
Right.
okay, you did nothing good. You just took a photo op, lied to everyone, making it look like you were saving this dog's life. And if you dare return that dog to the shelter, they're definitely going to get killed now because you're returning them. And how
Right.
dare you do that? How dare you
Right.
put that on a rescue? It's mind blowing that people actually think that they can just I mean, if you're going to save a dog, you have to see it through because the hard part, the rescue part, comes after that dog is in your care. Not going,
Absolutely.
anyone can go to the shelter, pick up a dog. Anyone could take a dog from the street. Anyone could do that. The hard part is after that. And
Exactly.
you have to see it through.
Exactly. I mean, we get in my line of work. You've seen the dogs that I save. I mean, my dogs have
Yeah.
legs cut off and things like that, and so my dogs are not like, rescue them and you can get them adopted in a month. My dogs are like, sometimes years of treatment and recovery before they're even healthy enough to be adopted. So
Yeah.
these are like lifelong commitments. These are not just
Yeah, there's so much that goes into that. And that's
it's it.
also
And
the other point. It's, if there wasn't a you to take over, that dog would be humanely euthanized because that would be the kind thing to do if they don't have a saint like you that's gonna put in, all the work, all the stuff. And people don't get that there's no in between. You can't just like take a dog, especially one that's, hurt and injured and sick, and just throw it in boarding and think you're saving that dog. You have two
yeah.
choices. You either follow it through or you humanely euthanize. And people need to understand that they're euthanizing for space. And it's just
Yes.
the reality. And nobody likes it. But until people make an active effort to help educate, and until people really make a really try to help in any way, whether that's donating, rescuing, fostering, then you can't sit there and say, "Oh, we should make, the shelter no kill. We should, some of the other day they were like, I have an idea. We can like create a social media campaign to get the shelter to like not kill any dogs for a month." And I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
What does
because
that
then
do?
what? What does that do? Or you get those people that's will say things, and then they'll criticize you for not doing something, and then I'll write back and say, well, hey, give me a link to your rescue that's helping the dogs in the California shelters. I'd happy to donate. And then it's crickets.
Yeah.
Everybody is so
Oh, I
quick to,
love, yeah.
yeah,
I can't help
everybody is so
myself
quick.
when people are like, "Go save that dog." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll go get it. What's your address when I drop him off?"
Yeah, what's it? Will you foster? Oh no, I can't foster because I've got one dog. Oh
Yeah.
no, I can't. I work too long. I got this. I got that, and that's fine. Everybody can't. Not everybody can do what we do, and we're doing the best that we can with the limited resources. It's so hard right now out there. So many animals, overwhelming, lack of funds, lack of help, lack of space. There are so many things that are going against us, but we're out there every single day trying to fight for these animals. And, on that point, like amidst all this heartbreak, Shira, like what keeps you going?
I mean, it definitely gets hard. There are definitely a lot of days where you're like, wow, things are getting worse, and we keep fighting the same fight. But I think what really keeps me going now is I'm seeing that the broader picture that, as much as each life saved, of course, matters so much. I love every animal I've ever rescued. I am doing, the mass spay neuter, the animal cruelty laws, so that my goal is, that I can hopefully save thousands of animals by changing things, and that's kind of what keeps me going right now. Is I'm trying to effectively change stuff so that in the future things don't have to be like this. And it's going to take time to catch up. There are going to be a lot of dogs that lose their life due to overpopulation, but as long as I know that I'm working towards changing that, that's what keeps me going.
That's awesome. And then, so how can listeners support your mission and get involved with the animal rescue mission?
Um, if you want to foster, donate, I always need volunteers for various different campaigns, legislative stuff. I can never say that word. Legislation
Legislation.
stuff. You could go to my website, www.theanimalrescuemission.org. Also, my social media, Animal Rescue Mission, and my new organization, Cara Vida, which is the 100% spay neuter. You
Mm-hmm.
could also go to our website, which is, ooh, I should know the website. Well,
Well, we can put
just
it up in here.
Google.
We can put it up. Yeah, we'll add it.
Yeah, and any dog that isn't spayed and neutered, have them go to that website, make an appointment. We will get it done because that is the most important thing needed right now is mass spay and neuter and to control our overpopulation.
Well, that is amazing. And I will wrap it up, but I really wanted to thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the episode of the Rescue Dog Pod. I hope today's conversation with Shira Scott Astrof gave you some insight, inspiration, and maybe even a little fire to get involved, maybe. Whether that's, like she said, through fostering, adopting, advocating, or just simply spreading the word. So, thank you so much, Shira, for joining us.
Thank you for having
And
me.
yeah, it's been great. I mean, we could talk for hours. I know. I'm like I could keep going. It'd be like 2 hours later. I'd be like, oh, we're still going. But anyway, we'll have to do another follow up one later on. But you can listen to the Rescue Dog Pod on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and we'll put it right on our Instagram page at the Rescue Dog Pod, where we also share rescue updates, guest highlights, and behind the scenes content. And if you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm and helps more animals lovers find us. And we thank you again for being part of the growing rescue community. And we will see you next time on the Rescue Dog Pod, where every dog deserves a voice and every story matters. Until then, take care and give your pups a hug from me. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks.